Ashtavakra was an Indian philosopher, who claimed to have known the secret behind reality of the world created by our mind, and the fantasy of so-called physical world. Ashtavakra, the name was given to him, because he was almost like a camel. In 8 places he was distorted in the body, one leg was longer, one arm was shorter, his back was bent, in 8 places he was distorted. That's how he was born, with a crippled, distorted body. But even in a crippled and distorted body the soul is as beautiful as in the most beautiful body. He became enlightened, but his body was too rigid to change with his inner change. His eyes started showing something of the beauty, but the whole body was in such a mess. The name Ashtavakra means, crooked in 8 places, referring to his physical deformity since birth. From a very young age, he lived in the hermitage of scholars learning Sanskrit, and understanding the philosophy in the scriptures. Ashtavakra Samhita, commonly referred to as the Ashtavakra Gita, is a collection of his deep philosophical teachings that reflects reality as the union of the Atman, or the Self, with the universe. Living in reality, according to Ashtavakra, is effortless and can be instantaneous. If you want to understand the secrets of Ashtavakra teachings, when there are few things you need to keep in mind, such crystal clarity, an expression like an open sky with no cloud in sight, you cannot see any forms. Only when you drop all forms, become disidentified with all forms and get connected with the formless, will you be able to comprehend Ashtavakra. If you really want to understand Ashtavakra, you will have to descend into the depths of meditation. No commentary, no interpretation will be of any help. And for meditation, Ashtavakra does not ask us to sit and chant Ram, Ram. He says that anything you do will not be meditation. How can there be meditation when there is a doer? As long as there is doing, there is illusion. As long as the doer is present, the ego is present. Ashtavakra says becoming a witness is meditation. Then the doer disappears. You remain only as a watcher, nothing but the observer. When you are nothing but the observer, then only is there darshan, seeing, then only is there meditation, then only is there wisdom. The story is that the Emperor of India in those days was Janak, and he was very much interested in philosophical discussions. Each year he used to call a big conference of all the scholars, philosophers, theologians, or whoever wanted to participate. It was a championship competition. One very famous philosopher, Yajnavalkya, came a little late. The conference had started and he saw standing outside 1,000 beautiful cows. Their horns were covered with gold and diamonds. This was going to be the prize for the champion. It was a hot day and the cows were perspiring. He told his disciples, "You take these cows. As far as winning the competition is concerned, I am certain. Why should the cows suffer here? You take them to our place." They had their own place in the forest. Even Janak could not prevent him, because he knew that he had been the champion continuously for 5 years, and he would be the champion this time, because there was nobody else who could defeat him. It is not right to take the reward before you have won, but his victory was so certain to everybody that nobody objected, and his disciples took away all the cows. While Yajnavalkya was discussing, a very unknown scholar was also present in the conference. Ashtavakra was this unknown philosopher's son. His mother was waiting for her husband to come home. It was getting late and the meal was getting cold, so she sent Ashtavakra to bring his father home, because he could not win the competition. Why should he unnecessarily waste his time? He was a poor scholar and there were great scholars there. Ashtavakra went. There were at least 1,000 people in the conference, the highly cultured and sophisticated scholars of the country. As Ashtavakra entered, looking at his distorted body, they all started laughing. But Ashtavakra was a man of tremendous integrity. As they started laughing, he laughed even louder. Because of his loud laugh they stopped. They could not believe that he was laughing. Janak asked him, "I can understand why they are laughing, because of your body. But I cannot understand why you are laughing. And you stopped all their laughing with your laughter." A single man stopped 1,000 people's laughter. Ashtavakra said to Janak, "I thought this conference was for scholars and philosophers, but these are all shoemakers. They can understand only the skin. They cannot see the inner, they can only see the outer. There was a great silence. What he was saying had a great truth in it. Janak dissolved the conference and said, "Now I would like to inquire of Ashtavakra only. He has defeated you all just by his laughter and his statement that, you can't see the inner, you can only see the outer. You are all shoemakers. Shoemakers work with the skin of different animals." I dissolved the conference and, Yagnavalkya, return those 1,000 cows, because you also laughed. And when Ashtavakra laughed, you also stopped. It was a very strange situation, it had never happened before. And then began the long inquiry of Janak, the emperor. He asked questions and Ashtavakra answered them. Each answer in itself carried so much meaning and significance. Because his body was in such a bad shape he could not get identified with it. Sometimes blessings come in such disguise. He could not go out, because wherever he went people would laugh, "Look at that man. Have you seen anything uglier than this?" So most of the time he was in the house, meditating, figuring out, who am I? Certainly I am not this body, because I can be aware of this body, I can observe this body from within. Certainly that awareness has to be different from the body. Because of his crippled body he experienced enlightenment. The only barrier is identification with the body. But he could not identify, the body was so ugly. He never looked in a mirror, it would have been such a shock. But Yagnavalkya had to return those 1,000 cows to Ashtavakra's house. He was young and he defeated 1,000 old philosophers, well versed in the ancient scriptures. It is one of the strangest things in this country that on every book written by any prominent mystic there have been hundreds of commentaries, but nobody has commented before me on Ashtavakra. And he must be at least 5,000 years old. For 5,000 years nobody has bothered to look into his statements, which are so significant. But his inner enlightenment, his inner understanding could not change his outer appearance. And yet for those who are going deeper into themselves, the outer does not matter. They would have seen even in Ashtavakra tremendous beauty, but it would not have been of the outer circumference, but of the center. Most often the inner changes the outer, if the outer is not too rigid. But the outer never changes the inner. You need to have eyes, going deep into people's beings, which is possible only if you are going inwards yourself. The deeper you go into yourself, the deeper you can look into other people's beings. And then a totally new world opens its doors. Nobody can do anything about your inner being except you. You are the master of your inner world. And as the inner world becomes silent, naturally your eyes become deeper, with an oceanic depth. As your inner being becomes cloudless, your face also becomes cloudless, just an open sky. As your inner being comes to discover the source of your life, the flame of your life, something of that flame starts radiating from every pore of your body. This is the rule. Ashtavakra is an exception. Exceptions don't make the rule, they only prove the rule. But it has never happened vice versa before, and I don't think it can ever happen. We are all trying to be beautiful on the outside, all kinds of makeup, all kinds of things are going on to make your outer beautiful. I have heard. A man was catching flies. Finally after 2 or 3 hours effort he caught 4 flies. He told his wife, "I have caught 4 flies, 2 are male, 2 are female." The wife said, "My God, how did you figure out who is male and who is female?" He said, "Easy. 2 were sitting for almost 2 hours on the mirror and 2 were for 2 hours reading the newspaper." We are so much identified with the periphery of our being that we have forgotten that the periphery does not exist in itself. There must be a center inside. And the search for the center is the only religious search, not for God, not for heaven, not for any rewards for your virtues, not to avoid hell and punishment. There is only one authentic religious search, and that is to know your innermost being. It is the being of the whole universe. By entering your innermost temple you have entered the real temple. All other temples are false, man-manufactured. All other gods in those temples are false, they are man-manufactured. Only one thing is not man-manufactured, and that is your innermost dignity, your innermost grace. That grace starts flooding your outer being too, and that grace transforms not only the inner, but gives a new look to your outer being, an innocence, a serenity, a depth, a peace, a love, and these are all flowers blossoming around you. So, that's all for today, see you soon.